Welcome to the Freedom to Thrive, a podcast that dives deep into the fight for abolition, reimagines justice, and explores the intersection of immigration and the criminal legal system, starting with this series that we call Crimmigration, brought to you by Freedom to Thrive, an organization here to challenge the status quo, dismantle oppressive systems, and build a world where our communities can truly thrive. Each episode in the series, we sit down with powerful voices from organizers to activists, community leaders, and allies who are leading the charge for change. We'll unpack the real impact of our current systems, discuss the importance of abolition, and share the tools, strategies needed to organize for a more just future. Whether you're new to this movement or a seasoned advocate, the space is for you. Our work is led and informed by people directly impacted by the immigration or prison system, who have been or have had loved ones deported or locked up. Their experiences with crimmigration is also impacted by the intersections of race, gender, housing, education, and labor. Join us to decriminalize, reparate, and liberate our communities. This is Freedom to Thrive. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to Freedom to Thrive podcast. This is season 2, episode 5. Today we have our special guest, Taliba Abuya. Taliba Abuya is a member of the Malcolm X grassroots movement, an organization dedicated to the self-respect, self-determination, and self-defense of Black people. Taliba was a part of the Free Mutulu Now campaign, organizing team, specifically the Shakur Squad #1 that freed Mutulu Shakur and is fighting to free all political prisoners and prisoners of war and return our political exiles. Taliba was born in the aftermath of the war on drugs to the backdrop of hip hop in the U.S. South. Beloved mother to a very fresh Scorpio, is a dreamer of a new South, fan of sunflowers, and in awe of the beauty and the resilience of Black people, while guided by the dopeness of whom come before. Black Queen Mother Moore, Ella J. Baker, Mama Harriet Tubman, and Sojourner Truth. Taliba Abuya is lowercase on purpose, and their pronouns are beloved, beautiful, or Taliba is fine. So yeah.
Awesome. Hey, y'all, free to land.
Welcome, Taliba. Good to have you.
It's an honor.
No, I'm excited just to be here. So thank you all for putting me down with the set.
Absolutely. No, it's great to have you. The Malcolm X grassroots movement has been something that has been of significance, especially for this month. We're highlighting Black August, and that's the reason why it's important to have a guest like you on board with us. Tell us a little bit about your work, what you've been doing.
Sure. So yes, I'm an organizer with the Malcolm X grassroots movement. We are a grassroots organization, so it's not like the nonprofit or a job. It's a national organization. So I like to say it's my political home. We have chapters throughout the empire, and we're organizing around the self-determination of new Africans, which, are like Black folks, those who are descended from enslavement of Africans in this country. And it's been really dope. Black August, as you said, Black August Resistance is a time where we come together, we commemorate, and we carry on the tradition, which started behind the walls with our community, who were behind the walls out of San Quentin on the West Coast. And it was really about like prison conditions, remembering our community who are oftentimes, arrested, incarcerated, and then somewhat seem to be forgotten about. So this practice and this tradition, I know we're going to be talking about that later, so not to jump directly into that. But that's one of our bigger pieces as we do organize around 6 unifying principles, one being to freeing all of our political prisoners. And it's expansive to us. So we know that we have political prisoners that do exist in this empire known as the United States. We also identify prisons of war because there's been several war on communities, whether it was this quote unquote war on drugs was a war on the Black community, mass incarceration being a war on community, just the war on Black liberation movements and all of those pieces. And then we know that there are political exiles, most famously Asada Shakur, who is still currently free and under political exile in Cuba. And then we also have fellow who is an ancestor now, Nahanda Abiodun, was also a political exile to Cuba. So around that, we're just organizing around freeing the land, some youth work out of our New African Scouts organization. We have our Free 'em All committee again, which houses our political prisoner working campaigns that is connected to political education, freedom campaigns, political education awareness campaigns, and then our international campaign or international committees because we are Pan African. And what am I forgetting? We have a land, food, and climate justice campaign, a gender and sexual justice national committee. And we're just really trying to figure out those ways and pathways that we need to ultimately gain our liberation here. We fight on all fronts to do that work.
My goodness.
I,
That's
I
a
was
lot.
like,
What,
stop.
what? No, like, how do you have time for all that?
Meaty hands make the
No,
light
but
work.
we appreciate, being in the same space with you. Some of us come from immigrant rights organizing, and as people that come from other countries, we don't even. I have yet to be honest. I didn't even know what Black August was until I joined, the Freedom to Thrive um, team, and we actually started thinking about this when we were trying to put our newsletter together. And we said, like, we really need to agitate people's thinking, and who better character than Malcolm X to honor and to remind people how to even do that. um
Mm.
and with everything that's going on right now, we really need to be clear about what we're up against. And I personally feel like we still have a lot to learn so that we have that clarity. And we need uh, to know. We need to know. We need to learn, right? Um, and so, but how do and I wonder, I love, like, each one of us has a story. What is your story? Tell us about your story. How do you came up, in the movement, and how did you get connected to the Malcolm X movement?
Right, cool. Thank you for that. So I'm in the US South. And of course, I'm descendant of enslavement of Africans, right? So I'm Black and I'm in the South. And I always say shortly is like, my parents put me on the bus for Martin Luther King. I stayed on for Malcolm X and I got off at Barry, at Barack Obama. But, or like I like to say, like my Emmett Till moment was Hurricane Katrina. So by Emmett Till, we just know that that happened with the murder of a young Black boy who was down in the South visiting for the summer from Chicago. Racism. I know you all know the story, Emmett Till, hopefully. Um,
Yep.
but that changed so many things. It changed the tradition of sending kids down to the South. His mom was very brave and let his have an open casket on a Jet magazine. And so to me, just watching Hurricane Katrina, which is very befitting because this is tomorrow will be the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and the Gulf Coast disaster, just watching it on television. It was like, what is happening? What is with our people? And you can't really like go through that being a Black person. And it wasn't something of the past. It wasn't something
Mhm.
of our elders. It wasn't a finished conversation. And now this country knows how to engage with equity when it comes to racial justice and things of that and socioeconomic justice. And so Hurricane Katrina was my invite in to it. We were organizing up to like go and show up for our people. And then I met the Malcolm X grassroots movement while in college. Um, And interesting enough, it was like I heard about like freedom all and political prisoners, and then I was able to engage with prison organizing work, like going into the prisons, and I ended up meeting Bible Matulu Shakur. He's definitely like in my grounding work of it. And he was just like, it just made sense. Like when you asked about it, it's like we do this work from love, and I'm thinking I had to wait to become an adult or go do this or do these things, and it was like, no, actually, you do this now. Fred Hampton was 19. By the time Malcolm X and Dr. King gets assassinated, they were in 40. And so it's one of those things where it was necessary. We were living through it, Hurricane Katrina and the Gulf Coast disaster, because of course it was like the Gulf Coast continuous this thing, like this war on drugs was real. You're being raised with, I was black and I'm a woman, so I have two strikes against me already. It's not that anyone is better than me, but you have to go and you just have to just work twice as hard. And it was just a hard contradiction to what is oftentimes sold to you, right? And so yeah,
Mhm.
let's get into this work and let's do it now.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh wait, see, Mom, you're about to say something.
No,
He's
I'm
always
listening.
about to say something. You know how he is.
I mean, if you want me to
Hey.
say something, I'll always.
Okay, cool. Her. Well, let me jump in for a second. So I hear you kind of sharing your, I guess, experiences around like how like your entry point into the work. It makes me think about just Black August, and I know Edwin was sharing earlier, like just kind of coming into understanding Black August while working with us at Freedom to Thrive. But I'm just curious of like, I don't know, with people who aren't familiar with Black August, how can they
Yeah.
engage with things for the first time?
Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, I love that. I love it because it means that we're reaching and we're meeting new people, right? I also found out about Black August through being a member of the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Every year we commemorate this month. For you to, it's an invitation to build your discipline, to expand your study, to show up. And be in commitment to doing this work. And if you're already in an organization, I know Freedom to Thrive does the whole crossroads of crimmigration. So, what does it look like to engage with Black August? And our elders are charging us to commemorate 365. It is not a celebration. Mama Ayana
Mhm.
and those who found it would tell us that quickly. It's a commemoration, and it is about like honoring and acknowledging those freedom fighters, but also not forgetting our community behind the walls. So it really is a prison movement. Um, Exercise and practice. I would say MXGM in our last 2 years through our Free Mall committee has been creating these Black August Resistance handbooks. And I like to just continue to say like Black August Resistance because then as folks get to engage with it and expand, it might shift and change, but we don't want to forget the resistance because it's an invitation to resist these conditions that massively incarcerate our peoples and our communities. And as today, they're just disappearing people off the streets, is a resistance invite to do that work. So we have you can find it at bit.ly BRA handbook capitalized BARF.
Right
Links are
for
being
you. It's
shared there.
right on the
Follow us on
screen.
Instagram. Yeah, and even I would say YouTube. We've been doing political education every Friday this month. Just again talking about Black August,
Man.
connecting it internationally, doing different things like that. So I would say like, yeah, come in, you can learn the contendants. I'll just wrap up with like there's 4 parts, right? You study, you fast, you fight, and
Mhm.
you train. So again, fasting is about building that discipline around, and it's also being in practice because it started behind the walls in San Quentin. They did a sun up to sundown in unity with Ramadan as a fasting way, and also just you just learn new pockets about it. It actually was mirrored and being formed after Black September, which came out of some things that were being done by the Palestinians. And we just celebrated 45 years of Black August last year. So again, our movements in this strive for liberation has always been interwoven. It's always been international, and so it's just around like
Yeah.
carrying on the traditions.
Thank you.
Word. I mean, it's kind of like, so, like, you study, you train, you fight, and uh, and and there's a
Fast.
way people, yeah,
Mhm.
fast. There's a way that people can engage with Black August. And so, are there any entry level books or training or recommendations or resources that you guys actively like to really highlight, use, and kind of like use as teaching instruments and tools for folks?
Most definitely. So, not only there's tons of ways to entry level it, we have literally compiled it for you, and tried to make it as accessible as possible. So there are some just straight out readings, and I would offer up Black August, The True History, Culture, and Practice by Mama Ayana, because she's a founding member of our Oakland chapter, but she's also a founding member of Black August Organizing Committee, the folks who fought and worked to bring that practice from behind the wall to the community. And this just massively just gives you just the overlay, all things that you would want to know about it. And then there's also another reading around Black August resistance history and Tell with MXGM and Napo, done by my elder Baba Watani Taimba, who again just kind of talks about just like the history, the practices, and different things of that nature. If you are looking for some books, you can definitely, read and learn Soledad Brothers, Blood in My Eye, because George Jackson, Unleashing This Dragon, is a big part of thinking about it. But there's some videos, you all, that are in there, that also is kind of compiled together. There's different like episodes that you can just like watch. Not all are done and created by MXGM, but just different things that we've been able to kind of compile around the way. Because again, Black August Resistance is about like those four pillars, but hopefully again you see it as an invitation into movement, an invitation into organizing, an invitation into you finding maybe a political home or your own development of your political analysis and joining some movement to help you inherently do this work. And then if you're doing it in the honor tradition of Black August, you are looking at the criminal justice system or this criminal legal system. I'm trying to create some justice, or you're trying to think about prison conditions and maybe freedom campaigns for those who are still incarcerated.
I love the Black August 2025 handbook, the Resistance Handbook that you guys have. So we'll make sure that we share a link of that too in here.
Bam,
But plenty of
right there.
information that you guys have and are sharing as well. That's very native. That comes organically from y'all. So appreciate that, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know,
pleasure.
no, I appreciate all the stuff that you're sharing, and it makes me think of like similarities to what's happening. I kind of have been doing work organizing in the immigrant rights ecosystem, um, and part of the problem that I've seen is that people are sold with this idea that to make change come about, you need to work within, political system, and it's been pretty clear that that's not going to happen. And what also has happened is that there's professional organizers, professional advocates that have, connections to uh, Democratic Party. They're a bunch of consultants, and they run the narrative and they run the strategies, and their failed strategies. They have failed massively for the last 20 years, and there's a reason why we're seeing the things that we're seeing. And but there is there is folks that from the inside are saying we need to do something. We need to learn how to defend ourselves. And I appreciate the fact that there's a whole like history about how you can defend yourself, from prison. Like the genesis of Black August is there. And often we are asked the question, well, what do you say to somebody who's afraid? And legitimately people are very afraid, scared, but we can't and I always think of something that someone said to me a long time ago. You gotta turn that into organizing opportunities. You got to turn that into
Mhm.
organizing opportunities while recognizing real emotions, right? Like people are legitimately scared. Like if someone's coming, who has a mask on and not identifying, themselves and breaking your car windows, like how you not gonna be scared? And they're wearing, all kinds of weapons. Of course, you're gonna feel that way. But um, there are folks that are, doing that resistance, that are trying to learn new things. So I appreciate that. But I would love for you to share a little bit about, like, what do you say to somebody who's, and not just, around immigration, but just in general, who's afraid of where are we going with all this? This is the immigration is just, for me, it's like the cosmetics, like we're barely scratching the surface. They have plans since like the last 20 years, maybe since the last 100 years, right? What do you
Right.
say to people that are trying to figure things out, and they're afraid, and they may be in prison, that may be in detention centers, that to say that there is a way to fight back. There's a way to change things. It may not be pretty, it may not happen overnight, but it has to happen. We can't live like this.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. I think the point, fear is good, right? Like it's like it seems like you got an analysis. You know what you're doing. Power only bends to power. So like that could be like a scary situation, but you have to do it anyway. At the end of the day, like you do it anyway. And I think what would be most what my advice would be, right, is being together. Like we need to organize. We have to get into formation. We have to get into organization. Like not just be organized and quote unquote organizing, but we need to be an organization, and then we need to be talking to each other. The organizations need to be talking to each other. And as you stated earlier, like these are moments to organize. This is a good time to get the education out there. And if you are the organizer and we're already like, yo, you've made this commitment, then I think it is something about listening to that community, creating space for the community to tell you what they need, and then how are we meeting those needs. I don't think that there's ways that we can just do this reckless thing, or we can do this without like a clear understanding. You are completely right. ICE and different agencies, or who knows who these folks are literally coming up and scooping people up. So then maybe that's where this act of solidarity is, as much as you're posting about it. Are we outside and like, what are we willing to fight for? And I think that that's clearly what is needed, because even with Black August resistance and how that was formed by, yes, the prison conditions and the prison movements have been under had just been like horrible since go, and still right up into our days 45 plus years later. It also was an intentional attack and an assault on the Black liberation freedom movements that were saying we want human rights, freedom movements that were bringing up contradictions in this country, right? And so it was under assault, and we know that that per se then happens. And so even in this moment in time, like what does it look like to study with what has already been happening? What does it look like to build those disciplines? And fighting could look like, where are your community gardens? Fighting is, what is your safety plan? Fighting is, where are these the checkpoints intersections, and we're sharing that out. I think it's one of those things, and I don't think like we can lie to our people. I think like this is really real. And then what are the resources we need to either keep our people out, or what can we do to response? We see what's happening in DC now. We see when they're scooping folks off the street, folks are also responding and catching wins that way. And I just know that when we fight, we will win. And we do win. And so yeah, I just think we all have our roles to play. And I don't think it's always about also being maybe that one who goes and get arrested, being that one who is shouting down the building. Maybe you're feeding the movement. Maybe you're providing childcare for the movement. Maybe you're providing legal advocacy for the movement. Maybe you got that dope graphic skills and you are putting something that's been written out. You're able to chop it up into 6 graphics, and we're doing mass education. One of those things. So that's what I would just say. I would say the fear tells you that you're smart, and then let's get with some other like folks and develop what our plan is. And it doesn't have to always be on social media. You don't
Mhm.
have to be doing their own tracking COINTELPRO documentation and then posting it up. Like, how many folks can you call on the telephone or have a little convening, and that y'all can do a quick meeting off of Zoom, and then to like really be moving in that way. And last, I would be remiss. It's a protracted struggle. Climate is like speeding up that clock on us, but it's a protracted struggle. So, what are we even building now so that then we're able to like will that? that shield or wield that sword if needed when that time comes. Looks like it's tomorrow, if not yesterday.
I love that you kind of talk about like folks as like roles. I think that that was a part of like really big, really huge in like my journey as far as like who I became and like how I'm kind of involved in this work in a lot of different pots. I'm really curious to, I don't know. I mean, even when you talk about like how organizations need to be working in collaboration, I think that that's super important too, especially in times like this. But I'm curious to know. I'm trying to formulate this question because it just kind of popped up in my head. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm curious to know like what's y'all's like politic around like networks. Do you all like have any internal conversations around creating networks with organizations or even just like amongst each other? And like what does that look
Can
like?
can you explain to me what you mean by a care network?
Well, you mentioned like how we kind of take care of each other, how we keep each other safe. So I'm thinking about like
Oh,
folks' roles look like, or like, does that make sense? I'm sorry.
yeah, it does. I just wanted to be real clear. So I would say like primarily with MXGM, we put out which is wild how time flies, but we have began tracking white vigilante and white supremacist violence from like police, self-appointed vigilantes, security guards, and we were like, black folks were being murdered, like, right, women, men, children were being murdered at the end of that year by every 28 hours or so. So we put out a handbook, Let Your Model Be Resistance. And one of the pieces that we thought, while also baby building mutual aid, developing people's assemblies, is that we did a call for people self-defense networks and a black self-defense networks. And so what we are saying is that we definitely think that, yeah, folks need to be coming together and thinking about what the security and self-defense look like, because we also see like those not only violence against our communities and ourselves are being increased, they're being greenlit. Like the extrajudicial murderings, detentions, and all of those pieces, violence is just still happening, right? And so yeah, we're definitely getting into the training. I'm inviting folks out for these trainings. And we're definitely saying that people need to be developing up what does a people self-defense network look like. And I think a lot of times you might want to go to like what does that look like? You know, the physical self-defense and the
Mm-hmm.
protection and how you might use certain tools. But I would say also in that is making sure like how are people fed? How are people like protected with getting home? Like just I think self-defense looks like a slew of different pieces. And we actually really go through trying to see like how we put that out in mass, but even breaking down the differences between like safety and security and self-defense, because we do look at safety and security as two different things because they are. And we just want to make sure that we're like articulating that out and we're starting to use like shared language and shared definitions. But we are definitely about that. And we know that it's happening. We saw that with the communities out in the Midwest. I believe that was Ohio when the Klan tried to come and rally and then they responded in a particular way. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Simply, yes, we're here for that. I think in other ways, it is the cop watches. It is some of our work with like against the Stop Cop Cities. It is the court watches now. It is the detention watches. It is just building up things like that's completely outside of the systems.
Thank you for sharing.
You know, one of the questions that comes up for me is that this is a lot of momentum building. This is a lot of work to take on. This is a lot of coalition building. Do you feel like you have momentum, and especially in this time of politics, the nature of which everything is taking place? How, like, you know, we're not even expecting, I don't even call it a betrayal on the on one side of politics or the other. It's just more open now than ever that things thing one has been empowering the other in some weird way, but yet through
Mhm.
it all we build like a lot of power in organizing. But how does momentum feel like right now for you guys?
I think it feels good. Like I said, I think this the time. the analysis is being, like you said, it is very out. We have more avenues of like not just getting quote unquote mainstream or the everyday whatever. We can get different perspectives. So it's definitely an opportunity to build organization. And then I think that there's just been these different charges or internal places where folks are trying to unify. People are trying to find their alignment and coming together. We definitely are like inviting and building up MXGM as we go and are always on that. And then really just the call has been like, just get into organization, get into formation, see what your duty is to the people, and then go and do that. I would definitely say, again, our elders say, Baba Chukwe, Lumumba, and many others say this is about love, right? Like if you don't love the people, you would betray the people. You have to do this like from love. I would talk to political prisoners. That was always my question. Like, do you regret? Like, what made you do this? Like, what is this magical being? What is this going? And they would just be like, no, I knew, like, I made that commitment. I knew what I was fighting for. And so I don't regret. Baba Matulu was incarcerated 36 years. And he still was like, I knew my people were coming for me. I didn't think it was going to take this long, but I knew y'all were coming. Right. And that's beautiful to just see or hear. And so to me, yeah, I think it's just, I think the momentum is there. I think it can be captured. I just wonder, like, what are we gonna like, quote unquote, funnel our people towards, and using our people like vastly, like not just like Black folks or whomever. And then really, I think like we have to be critical of this binary uh electoral party system that is happening, because what are your expectations and what is it that we want? And so yeah, I think the momentum is there for us to build something different. Not even just momentum, I think like that's our responsibility, that's our obligation in this moment, is to do something different so that we can meet the people and see, like, prepare them to meet these moments.
I mean, truly appreciate you and all the work that you do, Taliba. It's an incredible opportunity to basically meet, and there's a lot more we can talk about, but I think it's a reason why this is a good introductory process, even for us as organizers with you. How we help each other, how we can help you and grow momentum, power, and coalition. Grateful for having you on with us. I know you're in the middle of travel as well, so we don't want to keep you out too long. But
Yeah,
yes,
I'm also, I
wrap.
can stay like maybe 10 more minutes. I know you all, I feel like you all had at least two more, at least, questions I wanted to get to.
Let's
But I'm
do it.
down to stay for like 10 more minutes. It's fine.
Let's do it.
An obligation to
Absolutely.
the people. Exactly.
Yeah, love that.
Absolutely.
I do have one question that's kind of been burning. I I love having conversations around like archiving and like archival work. So I'm really curious, like thinking about Black August and thinking about like, even like the study portion of it. People are looking back into our past to understand like where we are and where we're headed, right? So I'm really curious, do you all like have any intention around like archiving like the work that you all are doing? Even understanding like, where we exist under a surveillance state, right? So just like what does that mean? And like how do you all like have an approach as far as like archiving?
Right. Well, transparently, I would have to say it's nuance and it's beginning. Like it's a nuance and it's very new. We do come out of oral tradition, and like you did say, like this under surveillance, many of those who founded our organization did experience and survive and still deal with COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence agency that was, crafted in a program out of the FBA under Hoover. And so a lot of our stuff wasn't archived or documented or written down or taking pictures and things of that nature. But we are intentional with what can be said out loud, moving in with the security consciousness of what can be, we move as a postcard. I think that they say like the postcard practice, like when you write it on a postcard, it's open for whomever to see. So when we're out talking and communicating, it's like things that can be public. So we do tend to like record our teachings and our episodes, things of that nature. We are trying to produce more materials so that it can just be of a resource to people using it. The Let Your Model Be Resistance Handbook. I think our link tree is share a lot of different compiled studies around Asada Shakur and Baba Sekou Odinga and just the different folks that are there. So we are thinking about that. And then we also are going back to some of our elders who were around with the New African Independence Movement and the Black Power movement I'm trying to capture stories. We're losing a lot of giants, right? And so I think it's something, again, that's just another responsibility where we have to like kind of document it and put it down. And then those elders who might know, or those historians who may have lived through certain things, how are we also just accessing that knowledge? So several of our teachers and our elders are documenting things. Historians like Dr. Akinwumi Amoja, he created the We Will Shoot Back, which is like, I believe it's going into its 11th or 12th year. Now they just talked about armed resistance in the Deep South, because we also know that these narratives are necessary for the people to know that this is not new, that we are doing this work and we have done this work, and that we are continuation. So that's what kind of I would say to the main pieces of how we're doing archiving, or at least how we're trying to at least capture the gems that can be shared and that won't cause harm by the public knowing.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Also, historically, trans, queer, and Black feminist traditions, the radicalism, they get overlooked due to queer phobia, misogyny, transphobia. Would you mind talking about how you all combat that in your work, or even during Black August?
Sure, yeah. So MXGM, like I stated earlier, like we have 6 unity principles that we organize around. When we were founded, we actually only had 5.
Mm.
And then soon the sisters, as they tell the story, were like, no, we weren't going to deal with sexism as they dealt with back in the civil rights movement or the Black Power movement. They were like, no, we're needing something different. So our 6th principle was created after of the organization, and it was just in so important in history. We have
So, Taliba, we're starting to lose you a little
like
bit in your reception.
Oh, okay. Now is better.
Probably like wave one of your hands in a weird way, turn into a physical antenna. Don't do that. Remember those days where you just like had to like sit and watch TV? Y'all don't know this. I'm aging myself out.
I'm a millennial. Oh no, it's the same.
Okay.
This is so good too.
I'm going, y'all hear me?
You breaking up, girly?
Dang. I was ready for this answer.
I know. It's okay. We'll get to it though. We had reception. We'll get it back. She'll reconnect. We'll get this back up. By the way, how do you guys like my purple light?
I love it. I'm gonna say that earlier. I'm jealous. I need some lighting.
Yeah, we need lighting every day.
On Amazon.
Oh.
Hell no, man. The more that I am just at awe right now, because I'm thinking Black August is not just about August. Black August is every day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Like I can't help it because I have the privilege of being in different spaces, and people are trying to do all these new things, and I'm like, you don't have to recreate the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that we can learn from, and I think some of it has to do with anti-blackness, like straight up, and I would be the first one to admit it. In the immigrant rights ecosystem, especially in certain parts of the country where racism is not as open, as it is in some other parts of the country. They tell you one thing in your face, but as soon as you turn around, it's like giant knife in your back, so to speak. But it is really refreshing to hear, that this the concept of like sharing knowledge, like or it's like almost oral history, and from one generation to another, and like what is that, and the question of what is our responsibility today when trying to meet the moment that we're in. And I can't tell you how I really have appreciated, and I wish a lot of people see this and sort of like shakes them to their core, and hopefully
Yeah, I hope so too.
makes them think about how to do things differently, how to do things in a way that it doesn't have to, you know, drive you crazy about like inventing a new whatever.
Yeah.
When there's so much that we can learn from.
I mean, like one of the things there was an interesting thing that came up with like a very close friend of mine who was like kind of ranting about like, man, what's this Black August? Why are you talking like there's always something. There's always a month for something. I was like, it's a month for you to learn.
Right.
It's no excuse. It's an opportunity, and that's the whole point. The whole point is for you to actually understand and learn instead of complaining about another month. Their last rant was about Pride Month, and I was like, it's an opportunity for you to learn, and just accept it. Don't. It's the easy way out to sit and be ignorant, and ignorance is not bliss anymore. It shouldn't be. It's the reason why we're in this situation.
Yeah. Great.
Yes.
I hope we
can
get
go
to
on
see
for hours about
Right.
this. We can go on and on and on.
Go ahead, Kay.
Oh, oh, you heard me. No, I was just agreeing, and I just hope that with not only this conversation, but with all the different conversations and programming that we've kind of been seeing this month, that we just continue to see more of it, so folks
Yeah.
can engage with it, and it's like more accessible. So that's all.
Absolutely. Well, I think we might have lost our esteemed guest due to reception, but all credit to Taliba. Taliba's in the middle of like driving through Georgia right now, and took a stop to basically make sure that she could be on schedule with the podcast and kind of do this. And we got some great information out of her. But it's also a reason why we want to do these things. We want to hopefully invite her back and have some more time. But unfortunately, we can't, and we lost our guest for the moment. We do look forward to having her back one way or another, but definitely want to be able to make sure that we are highlighting her work. It's the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Please go and visit their website at freethelandmxgm.org. Go through their website. We also have their handbook, which is incredible, for the Black August Resistance Handbook, the BARH handbook. We'll also make sure that we have the links for both their website as well as the handbook below. There's a plethora of information, but coalition building is strong, and they need your support as much as we want to give it as well. So thank you, Taliba, for coming on board. Thank you to our guest for that. Y'all want to segue and move into our next segment?
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Crimmigration Corner is usually run by our in-house Crimmigration brain, so to speak, is Karim, but Karim's not actually on with us for this month's episode. Unfortunately, Karim's got to handle his business, and we're praying for him. He's got to prepare for his immigration hearing. And these are really, really scary times. But Karim did put together his Crimmigration Corner, and Kay and I are going to tag team on this. Game? We're good?
We're good.
All right. Well, so what Karim prepared for us in this Crimmigration Corner case highlight, this is our Black August edition. Let's start off with with George Jackson, $70, and the Lake and Riley Act, from indeterminate sentencing to indefinite detention. Black August is a time of reflection, study, and resistance born out of the Black liberation struggle and the bloodshed in California prisons. It honors those like George Jackson, who transformed captivity into a school of revolution. This year, we remember Jackson and the origins of Black August. His story resonates powerfully with the present moment, especially with the rise of crimmigration laws like the Lake and Riley Act, which weaponize minor charges to justify cages and exile. The $70 that sparked a revolution. Here we start. In 1960, George Jackson, just 18 years old, was sentenced to 1 year to life for stealing $70 under California's indeterminate sentencing. Parole boards could keep him in prison indefinitely. Jackson turned this punishment into political clarity, writing in Soledad Brother, that prisons function as schools for the poor to teach the value of capital. For Jackson, the lesson was not obedience, it was resistance. He studied Marx, Lenin, Mao, and Fanon, and articulated how prisons are not neutral but tools of racial and class domination. His imprisonment became a spark that helped ignite a Black revolutionary tradition, one Black August calls us to remember.
So the Lake and Riley Act, indefinite detention reborn. Fast forward to 2024, the Lake and Riley Act was signed into law after the tragic killing of a Georgia nursing student. Instead of addressing systemic issues, Congress passed a sweeping law requiring DHS to detain and deport undocumented immigrants merely charged with certain offenses. No conviction necessary, no chance for redemption, just accusation, detention, deportation. The echoes of Jackson's case are clear. A system that takes minors or alleged offenses takes minor or alleged offenses and transforms them into instruments of persecution. Instruments of permanent exclusion, sorry. For Jackson, it was 1 year to life. For immigrants today, it's indefinite detention and forced to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. For Jackson, it was 1 year to life. For immigrants today, it's indefinite detention and forced removal.
Yeah. Crimmigration as the new indeterminate sentence. George Jackson lived the reality of being caged without an end date. His freedom hanging on the whims of the state. Remember, this kid's 18 years old at the time. Today's immigrants live the same precarity under crimmigration. Preemptive punishment. Jackson's parole denials mirror DHS's power to detain immigrants for charges that may never result in conviction. Containment through law. Jackson was targeted as a young Black man. Immigrants today are targeted as perpetual outsiders. Indefinite timelines. For both, the punishment is not the crime, it's who they are in the eyes of the state.
Black August lessons for now. Black August is not only remembrance, it's study and struggle. Jackson's life teaches us that oppression always finds new forms. Yesterday, indeterminate sentencing, today, crimmigration statutes like the Lake and Riley Act. But Jackson also teaches that within the cages, there can be resistance. The study, solidarity, and struggle can turn punishment into power. Crimmigration Corner, Black August takeaways. So George Jackson's $70 conviction reminds us that the state uses minor offenses as pretexts for indefinite punishments. The Lake and Riley Act continues that legacy in the immigration system. Black August challenges us to resist both, to see the through line of racialized control, and to honor Jackson, not only in memory, but in action.
Once again, want to thank Karim for putting together the Crimmigration Corner for us, and hopefully we'll have Karim back on the podcast running this corner with us next episode next month. But that wraps up the Crimmigration Corner. Shout out to Karim, baby. And our next segment, we go into Of the Month. Now, Of the Month is our monthly spotlight segment where we Together with our listeners, choose one issue, topic, person, or piece of news that deserves attention. Each month, we dive into pretty deep into our bags of love and appreciation, or just petty, to pick what our breakdown will be, discussing its impact and exploring why it matters now. It's a chance for our community to shape the conversation, highlight voices or struggles that need to be heard, and keep us all grounded in what's urgent. So this month, I think the month should be just Black August. Highlighting Black August is what we were kind of talking about earlier. The importance of being able to call it what it is and actually provide an experience and a highlight for people that should know more about it or don't know anything and should start learning. But so with Black August, from the very beginning of this country, Black freedom fighters have been persecuted for daring to demand justice. Harriet Tubman was hunted for guiding enslaved people to freedom. Ida B. Wells faced death threats for exposing the horror of lynching. Marcus Garvey was surveilled and jailed for inspiring pride in self-determination. The story continued through the civil rights era. Martin Luther King Jr. harassed by the FBI, jailed, and finally assassinated. Malcolm X constantly targeted until his own assassination. Angela Davis branded the most wanted, locked in a cell before people fought for her freedom. And Assata Shakur, still in exile today, as highlighted by our guest Taliba today, criminalized for resisting state violence. But persecution didn't end in the past. It still lives on. Mumia Abu-Jamal, a journalist and former Black Panther, has spent decades in prison after trial unjustly condemned him. Jalil Mutakim lost nearly 50 years of his life behind bars, just recently barely paroled. Albert Woodfox endured 43 years in solitary confinement for his activism. Mutulu Shakur, who we also talked about earlier today, fought for Black liberation and community health, was only released after decades in prison when he was dying. And today, Black organizers in movements like Black Lives Matter face the same state surveillance, the same arrests, the same harassment that freedom fighters before them endured. The name change, decades pass, but the pattern is the same. When Black people rise to demand freedom, the system, by all means, tries to move them to silence. And yet, their courage keeps breaking through. From Tubman to Shakur, from King to the streets of Ferguson to our guest Taliba today. These small fights, large fights, coalition building, the fight for liberation continues. That's our corner today. That's our segment. That's our of the month. And that's a wrap.
That is a wrap. Agitate your mind, abolish the system, take action, and let's create something that works for our people.
Absolutely. Wrapping up our segment, we want to be able to make sure that folks are aware of resources near them. Our panel represents Boston, Portland, New York, and being born and raised in LA, I got resources that I want to share from there as well. These resources all interconnect across the nation and can help you any which way and provide access and resources. If you're feeling persecuted, you have a community member that's being persecuted for their immigrant status, class, color, creed, every protected nature, including those that are economically disenfranchised. In Boston, you have Luce Immigrant Justice of Massachusetts network. You can reach them at lucemass.org. Portland, you have the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, or PERCoregon.org. Their hotline is 888-622-1510. In New York, you have Families for Freedom, which is familiesforfreedom.org. Undocu Black Network, which is justicepower.org. You also have the Clemency Coalition, which is clemencycoalitionny.org. And you have the Immigration Defense Project. In Los Angeles, you have CHIRLA, CHIRLA.org, where you can reach them at...
And don't forget the National Day Laborers Organizing Network, andalon.org.
andalon.org, absolutely. You also, and CHIRLA can be reached at 213-201-37974 for legal representative. You also have VietRise in Orange County, California at VietRise, VIETRise.org. Again, we like to thank our guest, Talibo Bouye. Our next episode, currently in the planning. Comment if you have any ideas for our next podcasts or of the month suggestions. Thank you for watching, listening. Give us a like, subscribe, tell us about what you'd like to hear and from whom we should be talking to. Peace and blessings.
Peace. Thank you.